You know, it was 22 weeks ago we began this journey. In week 2, we started talking almost immediately about what would it be like if we could turn the flow that's been happening against the concepts of who men are. What would it be like if we could get off the island that we were sort of trapped on in our own lives? It's all the water. Remember that illustration of all the water rushing down the hillside out of the big lake at the top of the mountain? And we were sort of trapped in it. And we would take concepts, we would take truths, and we would begin to make a huge difference by starting to think differently as guys, and then realize that we could connect. Well, we're at the place right now where we want to talk about connecting deeply as men, connecting with other men, and basically how do we get about influencing the world around us. So what I want you to imagine is you're about to pick up one of those rocks. Now, we've been picking up all kinds like chain mail. We've been picking up the idea of armor and your core and all the different parts of it. Remember, we talked about those 15 principles on that week 2. I want you to pick up one more here, and this is the principle, this is the concept that you say, I'm about to step forward and I'm about to drop into the stream that's been what man is and make a huge step towards changing the flow of that stream. That step you're about to make is what you're created to do. By your very design, you were called alongside of God to influence creation, influence the forest. As a matter of fact, God said when he made man, he was going to have him tend the forest. It was going to make a difference in how the garden would turn out. Well, that's us now. The forest, as we've now redefined it, as you well know, is the culture in which we find ourselves. And we are about to become the influence to the influencers. We are about to be the ones that influence the world at large around us. So as we drop our rocks, as we step forward, it's with the whole idea of this stream will be altered in how it begins to move around about us. And ultimately, we will actually change the nature of its flow and the truth about how people are perceiving men. So that's what we're going to do. So if you keep in mind that when you write out your knighthood plan, which is what we're going to ask you to do, you're actually going to be yourself taking all of the different things that you've been learning, all the different concepts, and you're going to drop rocks in. And you're going to say, okay, this is my rock for the next couple of weeks, months, year. Now, Lynn and I, we lay out our goals. We lay out 10-year goals, 5-year goals, 1-year goals, but then I also do my own. So Lynn and I do it as a couple, but we also do it, I do it individually. So for example, one of our 10-year goals has something to do with land in Colorado that we're really interested in getting and making a difference in a sort of a retreat kind of world. And so we have that one. That's sitting in our world. Now that's to her and I together. But I also have some 10-year goals that have something to do with touching your life, touching my life and the lives of my children and your children and all of that in the area of male population and what we're doing with that. How do we stem the flow? That's very much part of both my 10, 5, and 1-year goals. So when I write out a knighthood plan, that's going to be part of it, because really what you're talking about is what is it about you that you want to use to influence others? What is it about your voice particularly that's going to make a difference? And when we talk next week about core of my being, I'll explain to you what's at the very essence of what drives me, and hopefully you'll be able to walk away next week knowing it's the very essence that drives you. This week we're going to kind of explore it and discover it. So one of the things I want you to do is I want you to take your books and look at the back into the appendix. Look at Appendix A. And as you get there, you're going to see Creating My Night Plan, and you're going to see a number of plans that will be laid out in several pages. One's a little bit more for you that really like to write. One will be very much about 5 goals for you that need to have core goals. One will have some steps, just some steps you're going to take that are going to make all the difference. So there's a variety of plans depending on the personality and who you are. But all of them will go off of this acronym. Now watch the word SMART. Right in the very beginning, it's Appendix A, page 1. Right about in the middle of that main paragraph, you'll see the words SMART that are written across there. Just that word SMART, and each one has a period next to it because it represents these 5 words. Your goals have to be specific in nature, measured in their outcome, accurate, realistic, and have a timeline to them. So if you're going to have a SMART goal, it'll have all of those parts. So as you start thinking about the rock that you're about to drop into the stream, that you're about to use to influence the world around you, you want to think in terms of very measurable items, specific items, the items that have a timeline to it, that are accurate. These are reasonable. These are things that you can do. What we're going to do is we're going to put those together, and then what you're going to do is you're going to write your name on it. Very important. It's amazing how many times us as guys forget our names. Write our name on it. I'd love you to write your dad's name, the son of. Whether your dad was an effective father or not, I'd love you to write that. I know for some of you, you don't even know who your dad is. So maybe you want you to say, you know what? I am, and name a mentor, this guy who's mentored in my life, if you have somebody. Regardless, put your name on there. And then what I'd like you to do is have 2 copies. A copy that you're going to give to your leaders that they can read, and that's what allows us all to be knighthooded. But also, what does it mean for your campfire to know what your goals are? It's sort of an accountability. So you're going to take your knighthood plan and read it to them. They'll be aware. Some guys even give copies to all the guys to hold them accountable. So what we're going to do is we're going to create those documents. Out of those sheets, we need something like that you'll follow in the appendix here and help you do that. That's to graduate. So we have 2 more weeks. So we actually like you to turn it in on the last week. And sometimes our guys need to have a little bit of time afterwards to graduation. But if you really target it for the last week, week 24, have that done, ready to hand it in. It'll help us, help you to recognize that, you know what, I'm about to take a step that's about to change the culture, the stream around us, okay? Influencing the influencers. All right, and one of the guys that did that very well was a guy by the name of, well, actually, you wouldn't know him by this name. His name is Theodore Seuss Geisel. Now, you might catch on because of the middle name, because it actually is the man that you know as Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss is a guy that loved to make a difference in children's lives by things he said. One day, he was interested in becoming a writer and actually decided to use Seuss, his middle name, because he wanted to save Geisel for more literary things that he wanted to do, but he wanted to do some things for children. He used the term doctor, interestingly enough, because his dad always wanted to be a doctor and he knew he was going to be a writer. But he wrote these stories with the thought in mind of how do I help kids remember basic vocabulary. So do you remember the book called Cat in the Hat? There were 250 words that were in the common vocabulary words that kids were having trouble learning in school, little kids. So he wrote a book using those words over and over. Somebody challenged him, okay, you think you could do it in 50 words? Do you think you can pull this off in just, instead of 250 words, how about writing a book with just 50? He wrote the book called Green Eggs and Ham. Now, Dr. Seuss has been dead for a number of years. But to this day, you all remember. You've all read those stories, had them read to you, read them to others. You've seen movies about it. You can't get away from The Grinch. You know, all those things all take place because a man decided he wanted to make a difference and influence. Influencing the influencers are what we're asked to do now. You need to start looking at who it is that I can make a difference in. So what we're going to do today is we're going to find out what are some areas that we can specifically look at and say, you know what, I can build a goal around that one. Because some of us, it's very, very easy for us to set goals. For some of us, it's a little bit trickier because we don't know even what to think about when we do that. We look at a part of our core, don't even know how to begin to work in an area. So we're going to kind of give you some opportunity to think through a whole variety of things, but everything is about you not just changing you, and that's what you're going to do, but changing you with this in mind, that I want to influence the influencers around me. I want to make a difference so that long after I'm gone, in the middle of the stream is the rock that I dropped that made all the difference that now causes a path for people to be able to walk across. All right, that's where we're going to go. Take your books and join me if you would. Look at Roman numeral number 1. Males in the forest question what is right and who will guide them in life. The knight's response is to see himself as the solution to many of the forest problems. Of all the things that we've written, read, looked at together, that statement is absolutely enormous. Do you have a sense that you could be part of the solution, not part of the problem? I actually believe that about you. I believe it because I've watched thousands of men change. A guy talked to me the other day. His marriage has been on the rocks for a very, very long time. His wife has been just really remembering his past failures. And they were so close to divorce. I think 4 years in since he and I have been talking. He called me up the other day. In fact, he stopped me. And he said to me, hey, I need to let you know that our marriage, we're redoing our vows together. And we're moving forward. And I looked at this guy and he was my hero. Another guy that was struggling with some areas that are personal destruction in his life economically. And he talked about the things that he was doing to rescue his family in the middle of his crisis. And when he was talking about it, I just went, man, he's going to make a huge difference. I've talked to doctors and lawyers and prisoners and prison guards. I've talked to all kinds of people in all kinds of life who are men who have made a decision to say, you know what, I'm tired of being the problem. I want to be the solution. That's us. That's you sitting right where you are right now thinking, I can do this. So here's where we go. We actually put a lot of things on us. We got this armor in place now. You understand your chainmail a little bit. We got the core. We've looked at all parts of the core, and we're trying to work on that intact, and ourself is now making some good decisions. We're really ready to do some things that I believe can now alter where the forest goes. Alter no longer the forest affecting your direction, you get to affect its, all right? So that's the statement. That's where we're going to go. So here's a couple things we want to look at. Remember the mind. The king holds himself accountable to find out what is right and to do it. I want you to just go back for a minute to review those shelves in your mind. You're going to pull all that stuff off the floor, put it organized in the shelves, and one of the shelves is king, and your job there is to find out what the right is and do it. Find the right even when the wrong is popular. You know what's interesting? Whenever I deal with politicians, and I actually have a struggle with politicians on one side and admire them on the other, I struggle with them because of all the inconsistencies and all the other things that you see that seem like they're not morally ethical. But I also admire because they're trying to enter a world where they want to try to make a difference. Every once in a while, you meet one that is so ethical, so operates by the right standards that you're absolutely blown out of the water. You're almost afraid he's going to crumble. Something's going to happen. You're going to have, somebody somewhere that he's sleeping with or something because he's making such a difference in those areas. It's moral high ground. It's not just politicians. It's not just government leaders. It's not just corporate leaders. It's all of us that are in that position. And it starts with this, choosing the moral high ground. What is the right? How do you know it? For me, one of the ways I know it is that the Bible is, for me, a place where I can go and say, okay, what's the truth? I need to know truth in a world of lies. How do I know? So the Bible's one. But God has also used a variety of other sources. Actually, nature speaks of His truth, just the order of things. There's all kinds of things we can look around. There are relationships, there's books, there's all these kind of things. But find the right and do it, king-like. So as we're going to put out how we're going to influence, think about what am I pulling off my king shelf? The right moral high ground. Look at the next one. The warrior in him sets the strategy to accomplish what is right. We'll spend a lot of time next year when we talk about warrior, learning to map out what are the course of action you're going to take. Strategy is everything. Warriors need to be strategic, not reactionary, right? That's what plans are all about. So in your warrior, you need to bulk this area up in your life so that you and I say, okay, how am I about to make a difference in people's hearts and lives around me strategically? See, I don't believe that we just walk around and drop rocks anywhere we want. I actually think we become very deliberate. Early on, I think, to be honest with you, the rock just gets too heavy and you drop it. But I actually believe that over a period of time, we hit this moment where we go, I know what rock I need to put where. And when we get to that place, that's your warrior coming alive. Battle to fight. Maybe it's with the course of a stream that's rushing by about how men are perceived, but it's your battle to fight. Influencing the influencers, dropping the rocks in, all right? When we learn that, your warrior kicks in. Now, your warrior has to understand something. If you pulled off the king shelf, you know what's right. Your warrior, I know what my strategy is. You then realize you can't do it alone. Look at the next one. It's letter C. The friend in him looks for those who will help him bend the forest. This time in your life, you need to be thinking, in your kingship, in your knighthood, in all that you're becoming as a warrior, you need to be thinking, I can't do this alone. So your friend is not just trying to connect. It's actually strategically trying to connect with those who can help you make a difference. Now, it doesn't mean that everybody drops the same rocks in the same locations. It actually means that we together are going to change the world around us. And so you start to find that the guys you hang out with begin to call you up, not pull you down. Now, does that mean you don't hang out with the guys that are needy? Oh, absolutely. No, very strategic, very much working on this. But right now, I want you to pull from the shelf of the friend that says, who am I surrounding myself with that will influence me upward, not downward? Because in so doing, then you can rescue all the guys that need to be influence on an upward direction. So start to put together who are the guys I need to have strategically. And many of them are sitting in the campfire with you. Many of them are sitting right next to you in this room. But as you do this, be thinking, okay, how can I personally find the right guys to be a team together to accomplish whatever it is we've been called to do? It gets kind of exciting. It actually enables you to understand something about who you are. You ever go through this moment? I get through this a lot where I feel like, who am I? I'm not worthy. Who should I be to have a bunch of guys hanging out with me doing a project together or whatever else? But as you become more and more knightly in your thinking, you begin to realize it isn't because you're somebody, it's because you're accomplishing something as this very complete man. It gets pretty exciting. So that takes us to what? The lover. Remember that shelf, that other shelf? Let's pull from that. Letter D. The lover and him choose which friendship gets the greatest investment, including his. Now you got to choose. You have all the things that you can influence. And see, here you are on your island. You got to walk across the stream to get to all the other people you need to connect with. You got to be very intentional about where you go. I'm going to give you a list of some people that you can be intentional about and talk just briefly about that. All right? Number one, wife. Wife. There's a term out there called significant other. I get always confused about that. Actually, I'm not against that concept. I just want to make sure that we're just not so downing somebody because we don't know, we're not married, we don't know what to call it. But this is the person in your life that you've so focused on that you are treating very exclusive as the woman in your life. I will tell you that I don't recommend in any way, nor does God, living together where you're having sex outside of marriage. For a lot of different reasons, as we talked about, it doesn't work and all those things. But one of the realities is that significant other in your life is, for me, it's Lynn. Now, my wife should be by now saying this, and I will be honest with you. A couple of weeks ago, I came downstairs, and I was getting ready to leave, and Lynn says, you know what, I hate it when you leave. Now, she has an amazing job, touching a lot of lives, so she's about to leave too, right? And she says, I hate it when you leave. And I said, why? She said, because I always, always feel safe when you're around. I wish I could tell you that that was true of me 25 years ago. It wasn't. But for her to say that now, some of you are hearing that from your mates too. Some of you are saying, in fact, I get letters from women all the time, emails from women all the time saying to me, hey, how do I become the woman that I need to be now in light of this man becoming this knightly man? I mean, it's almost been so confusing. They've been so used to one role, they don't even know what to do with the new guy. That's you guys making a huge difference. So you should be seeing that influence. How about with two, children? Whether they're your children or other children around you. For me, it's my children, my 4 boys. Some of us, we are actually still in a family situation where we're the child being cared for by our parents, depending what age you're at. And the reality is children are looking for us to step up. Lynn did something really cool for my birthday this past year. She had all the boys write letters, and she did as well, about what I mean in their life. By far, it was the most incredible birthday of my life. I don't need parties. I don't need a lot of people showing up. I don't do that real well. But my sons saying what I meant in their life, I got to be honest with you again. I get there, I'm blown out of the way, way honored, because I think my sons have grown way beyond me. But as they're sharing this, as Lynn's sharing it, and I'm feeling that honor, I want you to know that I didn't always feel that honor because I wasn't always honorable. You know? You guys, right now, in this journey that we've been on together, you're becoming the men that your children need you to be. Get excited about all the impact and all the possibilities there. Look at your parents or other siblings. And so often, guys, we didn't come from great family backgrounds. And we got wounded and hurt. And in that process, we kind of back off and say, I wonder if I can make a difference there. You needed to hear from your dad, I love you, I'm proud of you, it's what you're good at. You needed to hear certain things and it hasn't taken place. Well, you know what? You can go back and make a difference. You can go boldly. You might be part of your knighthood plan to engage one of your parents and maybe correct something from the past. Not in every way condemning, just reworking, re-engaging with brothers and sisters that have fallen apart. Where do you want to put your stones? Where do you want to strategically go? And if you notice, we're building concentric circles. Here's Lynn, my boys, my immediate family outside of that, and on, extended family. How do we go? Look at the next one. What about your friends? What are you doing to influence the world of your friends around you? And that's, again, concentric circles. These are people that you choose to bring in. I mentioned to you my 4 closest guys, but we have many other amazing relationships that keep building out from that. It isn't because one is more worthy than the other. It's just because you only have so many hours in your day. And what are you doing with your friends? And they should be noticing a difference. Guys, if you're doing nights of the 21st century, and you're going to do Warrior next year, don't do it alone. Bring a friend. Bring somebody. Bring an acquaintance that you want to become a friend. Bring a friend that you're pretty tight with. I have guys that bring their whole life groups from their church. What do you do with that? All right? Look at the next one. 5 is church. That's a whole area. What impact are you making in that community around you? And for us, we're really very, very intentional about that in my own personal life. What difference do you make in that world? Look at 6, jobs. As a natural way of life, you have jobs. And in those jobs, you have the possibility of influencing those around you. You guys work together all the time. You do lunch together. You spend time talking. What kind of influence are you making? Is it just about a sports team where all the conversations go? Or do you say, you know what, let me talk through some of the areas? Does your chainmail start to come out so that they can see your beliefs? And do some of their filters get picked up, or your filters get picked up? Or are you so heavy engaged in armor that you never get there? These are things that you want to let them see your core. Let them work through that. And obviously the last one's others. And that's just, okay, bigger beyond that circle. What's the next level? We are designed to be influencing people we've never even met. They are. People that you will not meet ever. I mean, you should be an influencer well after you've left this earth. So how do we do it? All right, let me give you some things I think will be helpful. Look at Roman numeral number 2. These are some things to discover how to be successful. What must a knight discover to become successful at bending the forest? There's a guy in the Old Testament, his name is Joshua. Joshua and Caleb were 2 of the 12 spies who entered the land in front of Moses and all the people. And then they said, we can take the land. The other 10 guys said, no, we can't. There's a vote. The people said no, and 40 years they'll wander in the wilderness. But when they do enter the land, Joshua will lead them in the land. After Moses' death, Joshua will be the leader of the people. Near the end of Joshua's life, he says in the 24th chapter, there in your nightly news, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. You can choose who you will serve, but as for us, this is who we will serve. We'll serve God. And he says, I'm about to tell you what my influence has been about and what it will continue to be about. When I think of the name of Joshua, I think of a strong, courageous leader every time. How did he become that? I've never met the guy, right? He's thousands and thousands of years ago. He's still influencing me today. And why? Because he was a man who said, I know what I'm about. I know what's important. I choose to serve God, and in serving God, I will serve you. It's just very, very impressive stuff. So here are some principles. We're just going to walk through, basically walk through an alphabet of ideas, 26 things. And what I want you to do is pull from this certain ones you say, you know what, I could do that. I could put that into my knighthood plan. I could use that as one of the principles that I'll move forward towards. Okay, just a series of encouraging ideas. We're going to move relatively quickly through this. Now, this knight, he must discover, first of all, the power of his beliefs. Know what you believe. Know what you believe. Next week, when we talk about the core of my being, we will look at what is it at the very essence of who and what you are that drives you at the core, at the center. Know what you believe. If you don't know what you believe, you'll believe anything. So know your beliefs. A knight must discover what he believes. Look at the next one. He must discover that he's going to be involved in choosing to fuel his enthusiasm, that what choices he's going to make in a positive way to fuel his enthusiasm. And this is what he's going to do in this. He's going to take his beliefs and he's going to use that to fuel and discover all that he could be. So when I'm going to be enthusiastic, it's because my beliefs give me confidence. All right, so here's the deal. Enthusiasm should be part of your life. When you're around, people should be glad you're around. When they're not glad you're around, it's because, to be honest with you, life has dealt you some things that have caused you to say, my core can't handle it. My beliefs aren't enough. So enthusiasm is part of it. Now, don't fake it. Just let your beliefs fuel it. Let it be the fuel that will cause others to see in you certain things. Look at C. He must discover that enthusiasm is going to explode into the passion for life. That with his beliefs, they're just going to explode this into some kind of passion. What are you passionate about? What are the things that, man, just make you just passionate? Now, we tend to think of passion, we tend to think of sexuality. And so I'll take that one. What is it about you that you're passionate about the relationship? Sexuality works because it's about relationship, not about an instinctual drive, right? So what are you passionate about? Well, you're passionate about the one you're having the relationship with. That's why one-night stands don't work, because you can have no passion in a one-night stand. So you're passionate. What else are you passionate about? I'm passionate actually about you becoming the man you're supposed to be. That actually does that for me. It is so important. When I look at my sons and I watch them become the men they're designed to be, my oldest son, sort of the patriarch of the family, where he just kind of calls all the time to make sure everybody's okay. When we were in the crisis mode, I almost felt like he was taking my role. It was just because he said, you know what, Dad, I'll just kind of come underneath and support you and do that. Each of my guys, I'm passionate about those men becoming the men they were designed to be. You know what my prayer for my sons has been? That they will grow beyond me at every phase of their lives. Josh at 28, to Seth at 16, and all the guys in between. At each of their ages, they've grown beyond me already. So what I was at 16 and what I was at 28, they're already surpassing it. I'm passionate about that. What are you passionate about? I'll tell you a great deal. Look at D. He must discover how to maintain a positive attitude. How do you keep the glass half full, not half empty? That's what you have to discover. How do I go about doing that? Are you good at, again, people want to be around you, your beliefs, your passions, your enthusiasm, all being reflective of what it is that does it for you. All right, look at E. He must discover, and then this gets really exciting, his reason for being and the meaning of his life. That's your voice. We're going to deal with that next week. You got to discover that. That's when you get this, it's just so much fun. It becomes your reason for getting up in the morning. It becomes your reason for sometimes working a little bit longer hours or stopping working too long of hours. It's interesting. It'll just cause you to go, man, I have a reason why I'm here. If I'm not here, things behind me will not be influenced. The world around me will not be different. I gotta be who I am because it makes all the difference. It gets really exciting. F. He must discover an unquenchable thirst for knowledge. What it's going to do is you're going to say, I don't know what's going to come next, so I better be prepared. You're just going to discover this thirst that allows you. Maybe that needs to be one of your knighthood goals. On mine, I have 17 on my current set, and one of them is that I will read 2 significant books regarding a particular area of my life. Now, for you that are readers, you're going, well, dude, that's really impressive. Well, for me, to read 2 significant books in an area that is in a specific area as opposed to what I'm normally looking at, I'm normally studying, normally engaged in, is a very, very big goal for me. Why? I want to be involved in this learning process. Look at the next one. G. He must discover how to set up realistic short-term goals. This is going to keep you from aimlessness. Goals are what? Again, Spandex male, what? You got to have realistic short-term goals. Now, I want to challenge you to do this. I'd like you to put 10-year goals, 5-year goals, and 1-year goals. All right? And you can even go smaller than 1 year, but right now it'd be so cool if your night plan would be 1 year, but it's reflecting of a 5-year and a 10-year. Now you go, well, Keith, man, I don't even do 1 year, so how am I going to do this? Well, here's what I'd love you to do. Find a goal that's going to be the goal for the next year. I'm going to let you build it out instead of in. And then I want you to think, does that really fit towards something I'd love to see happen in 5 years? And if so, then you've put a 5-year goal in relationship to that. If it doesn't, that goal sort of is just sort of a jump starting, like a launching pad, getting a rocket started in your life. This is what you want to do with this. You want to be able to say, can I build to the next? And if you can build it to 5, trust me, you can build it to 10 and see where that influence comes and how the difference you and I are going to make if we take it to its fullest level. And keep in mind, realistic helps you from getting discouraged in your goals. It keeps you from being aimless, but it also, just so you understand, sometimes you're going to shoot high and fall a little short, or you'll keep settling. So don't be afraid to push it a little bit. Push those limits on those goals. Goals are by very nature movement, and it has to have some degree of failure, and it's not the measuring of how good of a man you are. Sometimes we have to set it just a little bit bigger of a bar, or we'll never try. All right, so think of an athlete trying to jump over a high jump, that kind of direction. He needs to discover how to tap into his creative self. One of the things that I want you to think in terms of is, if I was trapped and I had to do something, how would I figure it out? Lynn, my wife, is so good at figuring out, she can just about jury-rig any concept, figure it out and get it working. She's great in crisis. Creativity is part of that. Learn to be creative. Do something that's creative. One of my goals has an awful lot to do with creativity in my life. So what am I doing to keep pushing my, sort of the envelope of what I am, all right? Look at the next one. He's going to discover how to embrace necessary changes in his life. I'm going through something right now where my life is going through some personal life change. And this personal life change has a lot to do with Lynn's career, the boys at the ages they're at, some issues in my career and some of the directions I want to do, something to do with what we're talking about right now. All of those things are there. How do you go about dealing with those? That's all part of your goals. So as you look through this, it's, okay, how am I going to embrace the necessary changes in life? And life changes. Boys get older. You know, careers change. Things happen. So how am I going to do that? How do I utilize his mentors and his heroes? How does a man discover how to utilize the mentors and heroes in your life? When a hero falls, don't be leaning on him so hard. Imagine this podium right here. If I lean on it and you knock it over, I fall. Don't lean on a hero, but look for heroes. Have mentors in your life and utilize them. They encourage you up and call you up and move you forward. That's why you give your knighthood plans to the guys around you. Look at the next one. A man is going to discover time for solitude and reflection. Your goals should have an opportunity for you to be fearless in looking about who you are. Don't be afraid that it'll surface some issues from the past. Knights will discover that their filters might have gotten a little messed up, their beliefs are a little wrong. It's part of the journey of understanding your chainmail. Don't be afraid of this part of it. So reflect, spend some time, find time with no electronics on, just to learn and grow. Next one. He has to discover how to savor the present moment and is fully present in it. Don't be wishing your life away. Lynn and I are going out to dinner tonight. All right? If I go out to dinner tonight and all I'm thinking about is my job tomorrow, I will miss the moment. Or if all I'm thinking about is one of my sons, I will miss the moment. I have to be able to be fully engaged in where she is, not just where I am. Fully engaged in the moment. When you're present in the moment, it will change your conversation, how you listen, how you get involved. Next one. You're going to have to decide how he can bridge the gap between I should and I did. I was talking to a guy, one of his goals is he says, I want to finish my basement. I said, what year? 2028. He said, not right. I said, you got to back it down a little bit. Between I should and I did is always, I am going to do it now. You know, so I will do it as opposed to I should have done it. So this is bridging that gap, so there's less of that in your life. I will tell you, that's one of the great joys of getting older in my life. There's a lot less of those I should haves now and a lot more I'm doing. You know, yeah, there's some regrets that you have. But what's interesting is I'm just closing that gap and I'm being much more purposeful. We'll talk a little bit about that next week as well. He must discover the power of thoughtful focus. Discover what it is that you want to focus on. For example, you know what thoughtful focus is? It's the difference between looking at your wife as a body part or her body part and looking at her for who she is. Thoughtful focus engages. It allows a person to sort of enter into your world as you enter into theirs. Men need to learn to do this. We've been really bad at that. You're sitting here, you're doing it pretty well just by the very fact that you're engaged in this process. Next one. He needs to discover how to fail forward. Love that term, fail forward. When you fail, learn. And that's what you want to do. You want to pick yourself up and learn from your life's lessons. It's almost obvious. Just when you fail, go forward. Don't beat yourself up. You know, if you eat too much, don't take and beat yourself up for it. Stop eating too much. You know what I mean? Fail forward. All right. He has to discover how the power of self-discipline. You know, you have to decide. I'm always in my decision. Do I kill my trainer or do I follow my trainer? I'm almost a daily decision. What am I going to do in that process? And so how am I going to get involved in being self-disciplined? The next one. Needs to know how to slow things down and wait. I love this one. This is like reflection. If you will wait a little bit, it will give you time for your past to catch up to you and you deal with it. It is probably when your chainmail will get most altered in your life. So move forward and wait. All right. He must discover the need to exercise in order to strengthen himself. Every CEO that I know of, that does not mean every CEO, has an exercise regime in their life. The greater the leadership, the more it's important to strengthen this area of your life. When you're really tired, you need to make sure that you exercise. It will counter some of that tiredness. All right. S. He needs to discover the opportunity found in diversity. Do not be afraid of people that are different than you, ideas that are different than yours. One of the great things about your campfire is everybody in that campfire sees things differently. Don't be afraid of this area, the power of diversity. So enjoy each other. Enjoy the differences. Instead of reacting negatively, knights always go, wow, I can take advantage of understanding this area and the clarity that this is going to give me. Power found in diversity. T, it is, he must discover the power of kindness. Value children in a way that they feel loved and cared for. You know, it's interesting, predators of children have learned to do this. And if you're a predator, stop it now. Get help. But if you're not, learn that when you walk around children, they should find that your kindness is real. That kindness needs to be expressed to men. It needs to be expressed to people in your life. But it's children who will spot it and see the sincerity or lack thereof. This is one that we need to practice as a way of life. We should be men who have learned the art of kindness. So along the way, guys, we should be one of those kind of individuals that people just say, man, it's just refreshing to be around. We need to discover how to perfect the art of listening. Remember we told you that the ear is the most erotic organ to a woman? That he's listening. Learn the art of listening. Take time. V, he needs to discover how to put first things first. On my cell phone, if Lynn were to call, almost always I have my cell phone with me. I don't have it with me at this very moment, but if she were to call, she gets me no matter who I'm talking to, no matter what the circumstance. Lynn has line in. So do my boys. And pretty soon after that, those 4 guys and then other guys learn that you don't have to answer every call. First things first, but make sure that the first things are first. W, know how to be true to his convictions. What you say, you do. What you say, you do. Great one. You might need that as one of your knighthood goals. He needs to know how to be committed to excellence. You need to know that. How am I just going to not tolerate anything but the very best? I'm part of a church of well over 10,000 people, and we are committed to excellence on every level. I mean, everything's at the very finest. And it isn't finest as in like wasting money kind of finest. It means that everything that we do it so that it's at the level of excellence that when a guest walks in, because we're always trying to rescue people and bring them to Christ, when a guest walks in, they feel valued and loved. But our people, it's interesting enough, we don't call them members, we call them partners. You want to know why? Because they're joining us in the mission of making a difference in the world around us. Excellence in everything. It's a great way to think. You need to bring that into your whole life. Then why? He's discovered that the path of least resistance can be a trap. It can be a rut. Don't look for the path of least resistance. Do the hard things, right? Men do what's hard. One of the principles. Finally, he learns how to love and be loved. If you haven't learned this one, guys, you are not yet a knight. To learn how to love and be loved is what you and I will do to make all the difference in the flow of life around us. So when you walk in a room, people go, glad they're here. When you get to that place, and many of you are there, so amazed, the world around you will start to change. It cannot help but respond to love. So, how do we become an influencer of the influencers? How do we do it? Put together a plan with a very deliberate dropping of the rock that'll change the world as we know it forever. See you next week when we deal with the core of my being.